Okay, following on then from the last or the one before recordings.
And holding to the principle, God does a greater thing in you than through you. In other words, He's out to bless you. He doesn't use you simply because He needs you to achieve something else. He could achieve something else that He also wants without using you. But He uses you because it is absolutely right to use you in this particular circumstance. It's not only going to achieve the other goal, but it's specifically going to do something that you need, and that is something He has in mind. Do you see? There's a greater thing in you than through you in that sense. He's always, in other words, He's using us for ministry. We've got the wrong way of talking, haven't we, using us, but He's doing His ministry through us, because that way it will bless us as well, and that's important to Him. He could do it direct, or He could do it with someone else. It's not that He's desperate to find, if you like, an accountant, and you're an accountant, so you'll do, and it's a blessing to you in that you're receiving the pay. It's that you have a need for income, so He's employing you because you have a need to do this particular work for Him, if you like, which is for someone else anyway. You know what I mean? Anyway, forget about that for a sec. What do I draw from the last thing? I'm resting apparently in the morning. This was this was about 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm resting with Aria's hair band, crunchy thing, whatever it's called, scrunchee, breaking, and in fact, it was mendable and so on. But the story was, and suddenly she's all fine, she's all happy, she's a day ahead, the day is fine again, it's all hunky-dory, she's all smiles and so on. And the tragedy of, a few minutes earlier, 10 minutes earlier, has all vanished, And that's what we have to remind people, the wife's left. Yes, terrible, isn't it? But it's going to pass. You will be enjoyed again at some future date, almost certainly, assuming God has you live that long, yeah? I mean, it's not going to be this disastrously terrible and awful and tragic forever, In this world, nothing's forever, and most things are extremely short, So, she promised to be faithful and true forever, and you loved her, and she loved you, and it didn't work out, and now you feel wretched because she's gone. But it'll pass. And it's 4 years later for me now, and, well, it hasn't entirely passed, but it's not bugging me every moment of the day, is it? I mean, really, I'm living life again, aren't I? As you can tell from my recordings. Right, so that's the lesson we learned. And we learn also that life is just lessons. Don't take it too seriously, only seriously from the point of view of what it's teaching you, not seriously from the desperate experience of it or something, but from what it's teaching you. What's God saying by this happening to me? What am I learning by it? It's a bit like that teacher, isn't it? The one or two I've had that I was afraid of, or and I thought to myself, well, I'm going to be the perfect student. See what effect that I'm going to enjoy their lesson. See what effect that has on them. I'm clearly happy to be in their class. What effect does that have on? Well, it has a miraculous effect. You get the best out of them. They think they just know you're trying, and that transforms. It seems to transform their behavior towards you as you understand it. And, of course, you get a great deal out of their class. And, if I think of my Mr. Nicholas, who I was frightened of, had a cane in the cupboard that he did use. He was one of the 4 or 5 teachers that used it in the school. Never on me, but I mean, you knew it could happen, sort of thing. And what happened? He taught economic history. In a secondary school, not a grammar school, not the elite capable people, secondary school, I'm in with the herd. I am part of it. Well, apparently. And, what happens? I go to university and I end up lecturing economics. Wow. How did that happen? Because I really decided to do his class properly and well and do all I could. And, I got things like conduct, excellent, effort, excellent, things like that. And you think, wow. we do like encouragement, don't we? Worth remembering, incidentally, isn't it? Encourage those around you. The ministry of encouragement is invaluable. I mean, that might be right up your street, like, what was his name? The Happiest People on Earth, founder of the Full Gospel Businessman's Fellowship, Demos Shakaran. You read that book if you get hold of it. Another book of miracles, little book, but The Happiest People on Earth, it's called. Where was I? Yes, so I'm bothered, aren't I, at the minute? My concern is what? What's the future of me and Aria? How do I do the accommodation? I can't solve it. I can't afford to buy a house because I'm not able to get a mortgage. I'm on a pension. And on a pension, it's not enough income to rent a property that has 2 bedrooms. It just isn't. Especially in a survivable neighborhood. You just think, what do I do, Lord? Am I to surrender her to Mum only and stop being the big influence in her life? Would it be that? And you sort of panic and what's the best thing? And, who can I turn to for help and all the rest of it? And of course, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't think like that. You should have learnt by now that, this problem will be passing, and there'll be a stage after it, almost certainly, in which the problem's evaporated or solved itself or worked itself out in some way, and life is not the stress to worry about again. You're just living the way you live, Marshall, however God has it, and much of it's, even from my narrow point of view, it's very good indeed, isn't it? So that will come again. And so what you're advising to Aria, your little girl, is what you should be advising to yourself. And God is advising to you as well. He's speaking to you. Sure, he's speaking through me to Aria, but he's speaking, and to you, but he's speaking to me in this ministry. Do you see, the ministry that you have is God's blessing to you. And he's not doing it because he needs you to be in ministry to save the world. He can save the world himself yesterday, in a sense, if he wants to, without me. He's doing it through me because he wants to bless me that way. It's going to be good for me. See, it's a greater thing he does in you than through you. He's going to do it anyway. He's going to do it to them anyway, one way or another. But he chooses to do it through you because it's a blessing to you. And from your narrow point of view, that's desperately important. And therefore it's important to him too. Yes, something like that, I think, is the lesson, and perhaps you can see rather more to it than I can, because I'm in it, and you're an observer. Yes. And so with that fortification, all sorts of things occur to me as to the solution to my problem. Goodness, if the worst comes to the worst, and I lost Aria and so on, as worst as I see it, then I could just perhaps stop and go and live with my boy in England and be a blessing to him. Nice house on the seafront, spare bedrooms and so on. Daughter that needs a great deal of help with. She's got cerebral palsy. She's about 15. Desperate case. Life doesn't finish because of some problem, The wife leaves, life does not finish. That's not the end of life. You can make it the end of life. You can focus totally on how tragic and terrible this is and, go out and hang yourself. Which is what Aria was doing over her scrunchee. I mean, it's ridiculous. She was in tears and upset, and she couldn't be consoled because, of course, poor soul, she's a 7.5-year-old. But she will learn, and she'll embrace valuing rather that which is of God. And these things won't touch her. It shouldn't touch us either, the bigger things that seem bigger to us. They don't touch us, because we're of God. We put our life in His hands. We've decided to trust Him. We've chosen to trust Him. And we want to be true to that. And these little problems, or major problems as we see them, are ways of testing us, of strengthening us, of saying, remember your resolve. Because that is your way out. That is your solution. That is what you're supposed to do. Remember what you're resolved to do. You're going to trust me because you put your life into my hands. You're not a victim of other people or circumstances or economics or evil or something like that, or addiction. You've put your life into my hands. Good. Live that then. Hold that to the front of your consciousness, that which you're bearing in mind. And therefore you can relax, and you'll see all the other opportunities there are. And of course, I mean, if I come to think of my little problem over the future accommodation of me and my little girl, well, goodness, God can sort that out, can't He? I mean, the incredible variety of things that He could choose from for the future. Thank you, Heavenly Father. So thank you for teaching me, Lord. Thank you so much. Thank you, Heavenly Father. Let me add something else here, and that is, I was going to buy a washing machine, and I realised I got the wrong sort, so I went back, and he said, oh, well, I'll look for another one for you, but I don't know when I'll come across it. This is a second-hand thing, it's a second-hand shop. Nice chap, man of integrity himself. And so I'm committed, aren't I, to buying the washing machine from him. I've got a credit of $350 because that's what I paid on the one that's not suitable, and he'll find me another one. And the lady says to me, someone else, she says, oh, such and such a place down the road, they might do better for you. Of course, because she's being helpful, I say, well, I'll have a look at the place you're saying. And then I think to myself, hang on, I don't want to break my word, do I, to the chap who's holding 350 credit for me because I paid him for a machine and he's looking for another one for me. Do you see? Small thing. And she says to me, the lady who's suggesting I look down the road somewhere else, she's suggesting to me that, you can always say, your mother had one or something, and you could make an excuse. In other words, you could lie and a plausible sort of story, and he might feel duty-bound to just give you the money back, But there's no need to do it that way, is there? God rules our life. This is a petty thing, in a sense. I mean, 350 is not petty, but not to me anyway, but you know what I mean. And so you say to her, well, I just don't think I will, because I'd rather keep my word to the chap. He's expecting me to have a front loader when he finds one. But I will look at the place you suggest, just in case there are other things there that are of interest. Do you see? One's valued her help, in a sense. One has valued her help. But you don't necessarily want to take her advice because, you want to be a person of integrity, don't you? Not especially, but I'm dealing with a man who seems to be of integrity too, and what a shame not to do the right thing with him. Yes, thank you, Heavenly Father. Now, these points might seem small, things like, keeping your word, but they amount to a lot of welfare to other people when you add it up through time, don't they? And they can be on major issues and many minor issues. It's part of the holy life, isn't it? It's part of this we keep our word. Well, we try to. We try to be a person of integrity, or turn it around a different way. We value integrity. And because we value it, we start to reflect it in our life. And that's what we do, isn't it? When we focus on the goodness of God, either in our life or in other people's lives, as in praise, praising Him for His goodness, we focus on qualities that we start to lift and hold before ourselves. And that transforms who we are into someone who can be part of the heavenly host, part of the family of God, and not cause damage, not cause harm. Do you see? Someone who can have the freedom of heaven because you're in harmony with heaven. You're not going to be disruptive, if you like, in heaven. You're going to be in harmony with it. Lovely. Thank you, Heavenly Father. To further illustrate, take another point. If you're dealing with people, person to person, it's not a case of you're dependent on this person in any way for your future. You're dependent on God. So you're not there to please. You are there to bless the other person. Not there to please or defer to their judgment simply because they're in a position that affects your welfare. That might be the appearance, it might be what the world does, but you're there to bless. And, there can be a conflict between that, can't there? Pleasing a person is doing what they want, blessing them is perhaps holding back on that. Because your perspective of what's going to be a blessing to them is quite different to what they're asking for. So there are lots of aspects of integrity, aren't there, which are affected by a perceived reality that's different. That God is your provider, not you in your battle and your give and take and relationships with those around you. Or at least such relationships and give and take is not to take precedence over the relationship with God, which is He is our provider, not man. He may use man, but He could use the stones if He needs to. He doesn't need to use anything. He can still provide. I don't know if you feel that's rather an extreme view, but I think it's worth reflecting on, isn't it? See what you think.